Alright, I don't know how this video is going to turn out because I really wanted to script out my review for Ranking of Kings and actually make a good quality video for you guys, but instead you're just getting the off-the-cuff Ryan thoughts, which are chaotic by nature. But that's exactly why I didn't want to write it out after thinking about it for a bit, because my thoughts are so scattered on this show and they're all over the place and there's so much to talk about that I don't know how to structure it properly in a scripted video. But this is actually a good thing because this is how much this show is making me think. I watched through this season, first season of Ranking of Kings, newer anime. If you've never heard of it before, you can check it out on Crunchyroll or wherever. And I gotta say that I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this show. I didn't know anything about it going into it. I'd only heard from people that it was really good. You should check it out, and don't mind the animation style. It's actually really awesome. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what kind of story I was going to get. I didn't know what kind of characters I was going to get. I didn't know what tone the story was. The only thing that I saw was the artwork. And if the artwork is very off-putting to you, trust me, I understand. It looks like a Disney cartoon for the most part, but when shit hits the fan in this anime, the quality and animation style that you will be seeing being presented to you will rival pretty much anything that you're watching right now. Now, it is very consistent within its own specific art style, and I give it a level of respect for going for its own unique tone or its own unique style and staying with that. But like the fluidity of the animation, the kinetic power of it, and just the way that it draws its fight scenes and battle sequences, it looks phenomenal. So you get used to it. The first maybe 2, 3, 4 episodes, you might be on the fence like with the art style, but once you kind of start like getting into it, it becomes basically a flavor of that show. And I could not imagine Ranking of Kings in any other fashion after watching it all the way through. I do want to get into a little bit of spoilers in this video, but before I get into that, I guess I'll just give my overall thoughts. First of all, if you don't know, this is a story in this sort of dark fantasy world, even though everything looks very whimsical, light, and cheerful, and wholesome. And, you know, it is a very wholesome anime. It is extremely wholesome until it's not. And until there's blood flying everywhere, until people are getting their limbs cut off, until people are getting beheaded, until demons and monsters and crazy shit happens, other than that, it's very wholesome, and it's about friendship. The power of friendship is definitely on display here. But what I think let me just give you the rundown of what the story is. So the idea behind this takes place within this kingdom, and our main character is this kid, Boji. And Boji has a lot going against him. Number one, he is deaf, and he cannot speak. Already, that is incredibly interesting to have as a main character, because that is extremely rare to have a main character that can't even speak. And not because they're taking like a vow of silence or something like that, but they're physically incapable of doing so. Then you find out Boji is actually the child of a giant and should be a giant himself, but he's not. He's really short, he's stunted, he's weak, right? Well, at least beginning off, or at least that's the way that he's perceived, right? And that he should be the next king of this kingdom. But he also has a half-brother. And when his father passes away, this is right in the beginning of the series, this isn't spoilers, the king crown is given to his brother, who begins the story a little bit like a jackass. Like, you get a little bit of like a King Joffrey vibe from him. But that's not the way it turns out, which I appreciated. Anyways, so Boji is sort of on this quest. Something happens to him within the first like 6 or 7 episodes, and he is estranged from the kingdom, and a lot of shit is going down at the kingdom while he sort of goes on his, you know, normal hero's journey, meeting mentors, getting stronger, learning, you know, training and that kind of stuff. But alongside, he has this little shadow creature. It's a shadow that's like an assassin of some sort. It's like there's fantasy mythological creatures throughout the entire story, who is also an outcast in many ways. See, Boji is an outcast not just because of his like physical deficiencies, but also because the way that he's perceived. You know, people in the kingdom make fun of him. No one believes that he could actually be a leader. And the entire time, you know, he is not allowing what anybody says to him to get him down from believing that he will be a king someday. And there's something very powerful within that. And alongside him, like I said, is this shadow creature named Kage, who is also sort of an outcast that everyone hates and despises because of his because of the kind of creature that he is. And they're both very much shunned by society at large. But they find this sort of unique bond with one another, even though the first time they meet, Kage robs him of all of his clothes, which he doesn't even need because he's a shadow. He doesn't wear clothes. Anyways, it's kind of a dick move. But that's the introduction, right? That's the introduction of these characters. And they grow this like great bond and friendship as they go through this journey, and sort of they have each other's backs the entire way, willing to lay their lives down on the line for one another. And also, while that's going on, we have this whole entire conspiracy theory thing that's happening at the kingdom, where there's this woman in a mirror who has connections with the former king that had died, and there's like a deal with the devil that was made, and then we have like body possession, and we have like all this crazy shit goes down. And of course, Boji, as he makes his way back to the kingdom, has to discover all this, has to face this, and kind of prove his worth in a world that has been constantly against him. And it seems like a very wholesome storyline. Yes, and it is. It is extremely wholesome. The themes and messages within this story are extremely wholesome. But then there are moments where you see these bizarre rituals that happen where this like giant phoenix bird is beheaded, and then its blood is used as part of this concoction to create this elixir that will create this weird resurrection thing. It goes nuts, man. It does not tone itself down when it needs to get dark. And I think it's because of those really dark moments that happen. It's not the entire series, right? There are some episodes that are just pretty much just humorous and fun and lighthearted, but when those dark moments happen, because it doesn't change its art style and because it doesn't change its tone, it makes it feel that much more disturbing. And for some reason, it's sort of more disturbing to see the violence in an animation style like this than it is to see it in a style like Attack on Titan, right? Because in Attack on Titan, the violence is worse, but you expect the violence because of the tone of because of the way that the series looks and is presented. In Ranking of Kings, it's not presented in a way that you think is going to be dark and violent. So when the violence does happen, there's something about it that just feels like more viscerally wrong. I guess because it looks like a Disney cartoon a 6-year-old would watch, just sort of like adds that sort of intensity to it. And also as it starts getting into its themes a little bit deeper, one character that was just insane. There's this character that's an immortal, and he's cursed with this immortality, and he wears this metal suit, and he also can't speak, to kind of like parallel the main character. He's sort of just this like vessel of darkness that cannot be killed. You cut off his head reattaches to his body, you chop him into pieces, he can still resurrect, and he just keeps coming back. And there's this like 3-4 episode sequence towards the end of the series. I don't want to spoil anything yet, really, but where this battle happens with him, and it just feels like the most hopeless thing ever. And he's not even the main antagonist. He's just somebody there. Well, I mean, he's very, I don't know how do I explain it without spoilers. He's very important to the story. He's very important with in connection with the antagonist, but he's not the main antagonist of the series. And it just he just mows through everybody, and everything that they try to do just gets thrown in their face. And it's just like this dark, hopeless feeling that you're getting through this. But while that's happening, there's also a major theme in the story, which is of not giving up on people. And that might sound very strange for everything else that I've just reviewed or just explained. But going through it and thinking about what's happened to these characters, thinking about Boji not giving up on his dream to be a king, and thinking about Kage not giving up on Boji no matter what, thinking about the main antagonist and some things that happen towards the end of the series with her, and thinking about the character that is cursed with immortality and his siblings not wanting to give up on him and wanting to see him healed eventually one day, despite the dark, horrible things that he's done as this immortal being. There is this thread line that connects everybody. And same thing, like even early on, like there's a giant snake creature that Boji helped when he was younger, and it's just sort of this commitment to, you didn't give up on me, so I'm going to have your back no matter what. And it shows, and even with the devil creature, there's still an aspect of, I'm going to come back for you. I'm not going to give up on you. And it's just such like a beautiful sentiment that is sort of the crux and the core of what this entire story revolves around. And I like the way that it was done in this really non-cheesy way, but really profound, honest way, where we understand that horrible things happen. People make mistakes. God, even the character... all right, I'm going to go into spoilers. All right, I'm sorry. Watch Ranking of Kings. I can't talk about this anymore without going into spoilers, so let's just go into spoilers. All right, spoilers from this point on. Sorry. All right, you've been warned. Spoilers. All right. Even one of the main four that pushes Boji into the pit in the earth, sends him down to like the dark world or wherever. Even him needs have this forgiveness moving forward. Even the other, sorry, it's a fresh series in my mind, so I don't remember every single character's name off the top of my head, but the character with the spear as well, who was going to cut down the swordsman character with the badass mustache. This is how I remember them in my head. I remember their facial hair and their weapons. That's how I recognize who a man really is. What's your facial hair? What's your weapon? The bald guy with the spear, even he needs an era of needing to be forgiven. And Boji's brother, too. Boji's brother, who begins this series thinking that he's going to be a real prick and thinking that he might be the antagonist. There's a great episode where Miranjo makes her appearance as the woman in the mirror that's been manipulating all these things, trying to bring King Boss back. And they bring Boji's brother down to this area where they were going to perform this ritual. And, they say that if he drinks this elixir, he'll become that much more powerful. And they're kind of coaxing him into it. And, that you'll always be more powerful than Boji no matter what. And like all of these things to kind of convince him to do it. This is his Red Baylet moment, right? This is his Griffith moment. Will he do it? And I honestly thought he was going to. I thought that he was going to be the main antagonist of the series, but he doesn't. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to earn his strength that way. He wants to do it pure and with his own merit and with his own experiences. And I love that he refused to do it. And then he gets forced to. He's literally like knocked out and forced to take this. And he spends the rest of the series sort of trapped within his own body, watching these horrible things unfold while he's unable to do anything about it. And he has this great development in the process of doing that. So what I'm getting at is basically every single character almost has to be forgiven in some way, or has to, have people actually still believe in them after they've done something horrible. Now, was it Miranjo? Fuck, I forgot her name already. God damn it. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with names. I got to see it written like a million times before I remember it. Okay, so Daida proposes to Miranjo. It is a little strange, right? But everything with Miranjo is a little strange because she was a child and she was protected by King Boss. But then when they grew up, there was sort of like she grew up. There was sort of a thing there, and they're like, how do you view that? But then also giants' lifespans as far as humans, like, is it weird? Is it not weird? I don't know. It is what it is. It's there. It's a thing. And then I could see how Daida grew an affection towards her by having this sort of shared understanding of her, by being trapped in his own mind, by seeing the history of his father, by seeing all of this, to actually like really start to see the good in this person. And then on her end, there wasn't really as much of an affection drawn towards Daida, so I could see it being a little bit strange on her end and being able to accept it. But I'm letting it slide just a bit because I'm not sure where the story is going to go from there, because I'm assuming there is more to this, and there's more of like the manga out there, I believe. So I'm kind of like being hesitant about it. I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hate the idea, but I'm also not like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's one of those things. But she made this horrible deal with this demonic creature in order to help Boss, right? So it all started with her affection towards him, and it led her down this sort of dark path as time went on. Boss made a horrible decision as well that he began to regret as time went on. And I think that's the idea behind it, right? That's the idea. There's nobody ever that has ever only made good decisions that benefited everybody, that didn't hurt anybody. Everybody at some point in their life has made a decision that has hurt people, or that was the wrong decision, or that they regretted later on. But that doesn't mean that the entire person needs to be thrown away and suffer endless torment, having their soul eaten for the rest of eternity, right? That's the message that the show is trying to present. And I thought that with that, it presented it in a very powerful, poignant way that could be understood and reflected into this dark fantasy world, but also something that we can understand in our day-to-day life. And I think that's the best thing that fiction and storytelling can do. I've said it a million times on this channel, is that I think fiction and storytelling is much more than just entertainment. I think it is there to inspire us. I think it is there to motivate us. I think it is there to teach us. And I think it is there to make us reflect on our own lives and see what we could be doing better, or what lessons we can take from it that we can apply. People go to art in moments that they need things like that. You know, you go to art when you're sad, or when you need life reflection, or when something needs to kind of pull you out of that dark pit that you're in. A lot of times people go to art. They go to movies. They go to TV shows, anime, manga. And I feel like if this is a series that you watch and you regret something you did, or you know something in the past that you hurt somebody, that this is the kind of story to show you that it's not the end of the world. You don't have to suffer forever for that. There is a sense of redemption if you choose to go for it. And if you have at least one person in your corner, that's all you need. So I loved it. So I thought it was great. I loved it. And it ends with potential for more. Boji actually submits his crowning back to Daida and is determined to go off on his own adventure and create his own kingdom from scratch. So him and Kage are kind of like off on their own adventure once again. I thought that was really unique and interesting too, and also shows you that maybe sometimes the thing that you think you want isn't necessarily the thing that you need, you know? And so it's kind of like limitless potential. We're in this sort of dark fantasy world, and, you know, we've only seen a couple of places. We've seen the kingdom, we've seen like the underworld, but we haven't really seen like the entire rest of the planet. So there's so much potential for where it could go. But at the same time, if this was it, if this was just one complete story and it ended here, I mean, I think it, for the most part, besides a couple of weird things, I think for the most part, I'd be fine with that. You know, it works as a complete story. So, yeah, I loved it. I give it my full seal of approval. So what do you guys think about Ranking of Kings? Please post your thoughts, theories, comments down below. Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? If you're on the fence about it, you know, and you watched through all my spoilers, then are you still thinking about watching it? Let me know everything you think down below in the comments. Also, if you would, please give the video a thumbs up. You might not think it does, but it actually does really help the video and help the channel out. So I'd really appreciate it if you did so. And if you want to help support the channel on a deeper level, I do have a Patreon and merch store linked down below you can check out, as well as all the social media links where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.